In 1587, a group of 117 English men, women, and children arrived on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. Their goal was ambitious: establish a permanent English settlement in North America and create a community that could survive thousands of miles from home. Their governor was an artist and explorer named John White. Among the settlers was White's daughter, Eleanor Dare, who soon gave birth to a baby girl named Virginia. She became the first English child born in England's attempts to establish colonies in the region. For White, this was no longer simply an expedition. His daughter was here. His newborn granddaughter was here. Whatever happened to the colony would also happen to his family. And almost immediately, the settlement faced problems. Supplies were limited. Earlier English expeditions had damaged relations with some indigenous communities in the region. Food was uncertain, and the colonists knew they would need additional support from England if the settlement was going to survive. White agreed to sail home and organize new supplies. He expected to return soon. Instead, England's conflict with Spain changed everything. Preparations surrounding the Spanish Armada disrupted shipping, and vessels were redirected toward the war effort. White repeatedly tried to return to Roanoke, but his journey was delayed again and again. 3 years passed. When he finally approached Roanoke Island in August 1590, he was returning not only as governor, but as a father and grandfather who had no idea whether his family was still alive. The settlement should have been visible. It was not. White and his companions found the colony abandoned. Structures had been dismantled. There was no large group of settlers waiting for them, and there was no clear evidence that the entire population had been killed where they stood. But the colonists had left something behind. Carved into a wooden post was one word: Croatoan. The word has become one of the most famous clues in American history, but to John White it was not mysterious in the way it sounds to us today. Croatoan referred to a nearby island and to the indigenous people who lived there. More importantly, White had arranged a system with the colonists before leaving. If they relocated, they were supposed to leave a message indicating where they had gone. If they had been forced to move under dangerous circumstances, they were supposed to add a particular mark. White apparently found no such distress symbol, so the simplest interpretation seemed obvious. The colonists had moved to Croatoan. White wanted to search for them, but the weather deteriorated, anchors were lost, and his ship was unable to continue safely toward the island. The expedition turned away. White would never see his daughter, his granddaughter, or the colonists again. And because that final journey to Croatoan never happened, the mystery remained open. Over the centuries, theories multiplied. One possibility is that the colony simply failed. Tree ring evidence indicates that the region experienced severe drought during the period of English settlement. Food could have become extremely difficult to obtain. Disease, hunger, and conflict may have killed some of the colonists. But if all 117 people died on Roanoke, where were the remains? Why had the buildings been dismantled? And why leave the word Croatoan? Another possibility is that the colonists moved inland. White had discussed relocation with them before leaving, and archaeologists have uncovered European objects at sites farther west that date broadly to the appropriate period. Those discoveries are intriguing, but European goods could also have moved through trade, so individual objects do not automatically prove that members of the lost colony lived there. The Croatoan theory remains one of the strongest possibilities. Archaeologists working on what is now Hatteras Island have uncovered European material from the colonial period, and the English had previously maintained relatively friendly relations with some members of the Croatoan community. Perhaps at least some of the settlers joined them. If food was failing and no supply ship had returned from England, integration with the local community may have been one of the best chances for survival. But there is still no discovery that allows historians to reconstruct exactly what happened to all 117 colonists. And perhaps that is because the question itself is misleading. We often imagine the lost colony as a single mystery requiring a single answer. One community disappeared. Therefore, one thing must have happened to everyone. Real history is rarely that tidy. The settlers may have divided. Some could have gone to Croatoan. Others may have traveled inland. Some may have died from hunger or illness. Others may have been killed in conflict. Survivors could have joined indigenous communities and eventually disappeared from the English historical record entirely. If that happened, there may never have been one dramatic moment when the colony vanished. It may have dissolved slowly, family by family, person by person, until there was no colony left to find. More than 4 centuries later, we know where the colonists began their story. We know when John White left them. We know when he returned. And we know the clue they deliberately carved before they disappeared. Croatoan. It may have been the answer White needed, but because he never reached the island, we cannot know exactly what he would have found there.